the phone, the cell phone. I I hate my phone, but I also love my phone because I need my phone. And I think everybody has a ring in their pocket, and it is the cell phone. It does consume your life. It is the algorithm. And I go on a lot of walks just to kinda clear my head, get healthy. Because as a business owner, especially in this point in my business, it's very difficult. It's very hard. Mornings specifically are very, very, very hard for me, which is new because I usually just used to get up and go to work no matter how I was feeling. But with, like, the anxiety, a little bit of depression, there's everything going on in this war in this year, I walk by a creek every time I go on a walk, and I always think, "Is today the day this thing goes in that creek?" And no, absolutely not. But that pull is there, and I think people need to separate the business from the personal. You separate personal business accounts with bank business accounts and business bank accounts. You need to do the same with your phone. Like, I took LinkedIn off my phone last week because I would wake up feeling anxious, feeling a little jittery, check my phone, open LinkedIn, see how that post did, and if it did poorly, that would ruin my day. It would ruin my attitude for the day. So, like, we're sitting here at 9:47 in the morning, I haven't even been on LinkedIn yet, and it's genuinely better for me. And I think the idea of being too available for people who aren't available for you can also mess you up. Your phone is the ring, so use it wisely and be careful because it can bring you to the promised land or you're screwed.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Full Battery Media Podcast, and I've got a guest that I'm extremely happy to have back on today, and we are going down a rabbit hole that you guys are not expecting. I'll say that.
Yeah, we're taking a shortcut to mushrooms. Sean, how are you? It's good to see you again.
I'm good. I'm glad to be having you back on, and yeah, man, we're going down the podcast rabbit hole and diving into the world of The Lord of the Rings while talking about content. And yes, you can do those things at the same time. I am not going to at any point in time act like I'm Stephen Colbert, but I am anticipating having some fun. Dude, tell people who you are and kind of what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Will Tarashuk. I've been on before, so if this is your first time, welcome. I do professional podcast hosting for financial advisors, financial professionals.
You too.
Basically host, produce, record, edit, distribute the podcast for them so they can focus more time working on their clients.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate that because to me, I think that it's a lot of fun to get out there and help people create content. And making content is fun, man. I just my daughter got to go to a fashion show with us. And it was like my wife is a singer here, and we got to go to a fashion show with my daughter. Not my cup of tea, but my daughter loves fashion. She loves making things. She makes her own clothes. And I got her a sewing teacher, which is rad. And be able to document that and share people, those stories are fun to, but like, let's ask a question. Spinning this back. If Frodo were trying to build an audience today, what kind of content would he create and why?
I think Frodo would make the cardinal mistake that I see a lot. I think Frodo would be the one who's like, I'm Frodo Baggins. I'm the most popular guy in Middle-earth. I need to be the one hosting the show. So he would try and have like a talk show, one-on-one interview, and it would just be completely fail. It would just completely go off the rails because, he'd be the host when in reality he should be the guest. Nobody wants to watch Frodo ask the questions, right? Everyone wants his story, his expertise. Everyone wants to know what it felt like when he got stabbed on Weathertop, not like asking what it felt like for Aragorn to fight them off with a flame, right? So it would fail because people want to show all about him, what it should be, but he go and make it about someone else. And that's a common mistake I see, particularly with advisors, right? Like, so if you're using content as a way to grow a business and promote yourself, why are you interviewing someone else? You need to be the one answering the questions, not the one asking them. And Frodo is the one I think he'd had that ego trip of, okay, people are here for me. Let's interview someone. But it's like, no, Frodo, people are there for you. Answer the questions. Don't ask them.
Right. And I think that was one of the problems. Like with Frodo, he's always, Sam. I think Frodo would probably make a whole a whole podcast and try to interview Sam every episode, and you try to be asking Sam's perspective, and I mean, Sam would be talking about what would Sam be talking about? Taters or fruit and vegetables from
Potatoes. Yeah.
potatoes. And like I don't know, it just probably wouldn't be as interesting. But you want to hear about, dude. I would love to hear from Frodo what it felt like to have the ring weigh you down. What was it
Yeah.
like to have this thing that was just like pure evil incarnate that you wear it and you feel like horrible? Like what does that do to you up here? And how do you keep going? Like, that's my big question, you know?
Yeah, exactly. How do you keep going? Well, I think you just gotta take it a day at a time, man. Like, Frodo and Sam, they took it one step at a time, one day at a time, and just kept their eye on the prize. As hard as it got, as difficult as it got, as, probably as annoying it got traveling with Gollum everywhere, but that's the road you took. That's the road he had to take, and there were multiple options where he could have diverted and chose a different path. And sometimes he did, sometimes he didn't, but the end goal will always remain the same, so that's not a lesson for people to take. It's like, if you're in this for the long run, be in it for the long run.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I want to ask you this, like, why do so many creators act like hobbits who never leave the Shire when it comes to putting themselves out there? And I've seen this. I've seen this a lot, man. People exist inside of boxes. And you create inside of a box, and it's like hard to get out of that box. I see that with my wine podcast. I have a wine podcast, which is very Shire-esque. And one of the things is that I was talking to all these winemakers, and I realized like I'm doing a wine podcast, but I need to also be like doing vlogs more. I need to go to wineries. I need to taste the wine. I need to have those bottles in front of me. I need to be pouring it and smelling it and tasting it and spitting it or not, whatever you need to do. But I got to get out of that box. And like, I planned this big trip back where I was going to go to all these conventions. I was like looking at these financial conventions, and suddenly I had this epiphany like, dude, I need to be going to wineries instead. Like, that's the type of content that I want to angle into. But it was scary for me. It was scary to say, hey, I need to be making this investment in this change. But why do you think so many creators get stuck in the boxes?
I think it's comfortable. It's easier. I mean, if you've been to the Shire, it's lovely. The sun's
Yeah,
always
right.
shining, the grass is always green, the farms are always out, the party is always going on. So it's hard to leave that when you feel comfortable and safe and in that echo chamber of everyone agreeing with you. Again, I work with financial advisors, so I see that a lot on LinkedIn where you go to the comment section, advisor, 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 someone selling some stuff to advisors, someone selling stuff to advisors, advisor, advisor. And then you go to their comment section, who they're commenting on, advisor, 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 advisor. And it's because it's comfortable. It's safe. You're speaking with someone who understands your language, and putting yourself out there is very difficult. It is hard. I understand. Like talking to the webcam by yourself, it's challenging. It's intimidating because everyone looking back at you is yourself. It's like you got to put the ring on and kind of conquer that fear and just get through it. Because once you do, there's a whole world of big folk out there waiting to hear your story and learn about you because you are so different. You are so unique. Why is there hair on your feet? Everyone wants to know why hobbits have hair on their feet. So just go out there and tell them.
Right. And that's the thing. I love that one of the things that you're pointing out. Like everyone in Hobbiton thinks that the world is just super mundane. Like,
Yeah.
I'm growing my tomatoes or my potatoes and taters, and you got all of this giant fruit that's not actually, and vegetables that are not actually giant. It's just they're so small. But like when they get out of that world, what we see as, oh, dude, elves, like, dude, the elves, and I mean, I think that they're fascinated by the elves, but the wild thing is that the elves are as fascinated by the hobbits as are the hobbits by the elves. And like, this is one of the things that too, like for a long time, I have a weird life that I split my time. I moved back from the US. I moved back to Vietnam. I moved to Vietnam after college, and I was go here, go there. One of the things that I notice is that people in America are fascinated by my life here, and people here are fascinated by the life in the other place, and it's like,
Oh, yeah.
you have to realize that if you can tell your story, there will be people that are interested in it. There will be people that think it is interesting and special. But like, I wanted to ask you this too, because what can modern creators learn from Aragorn's journey from Strider to King? You know, we got this epic transformation from the guy that was bumming it, could be king, should be king, but he's not yet. You know, like, dude, I would love to think right now, let's imagine that 5 years in the future, Will, Sean, one of us or both of us are the top two podcasters in the US, right? And everyone's going to be looking at us going, dude, these guys were always amazing. You know, I remember the days where I was doing everything myself and where I just had to just go through the motions. It was not easy, you know? But Aragon had this vision, but yet he was reluctant to be king. He was like,
Yeah.
but yet the
He didn't want it.
world needed him. They needed him. And I mean, I think that's something there too.
Well, it depends if you're going by book Aragorn or movie Aragorn, because they're very
Right?
different people. The book was he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be king. What about it?" Like very cocky, kind of arrogant. Whereas the movie, he has that full arc of, it's not a power I want. It's not a power I seek. I know what power does to people. So the transformation, what to take away is the transformation. One, it takes time for you to get to where need to be, and two, you need to be humble on the way up. Like movie Aragorn is so much better than book Aragorn. It's the, I don't want to be king, but I'm doing this because I have to, because the people need it and is what the world needs. Now, is your podcast going to change the world? No. Is your business going to change the world? I mean, maybe, who knows? But the idea is to be humble in your content and don't be afraid to evolve naturally. Take that natural progression, that natural arc. And then at the same time, once you get to the mountaintop and you're the king of Gondor, show how you got there and don't be too big to talk to anybody if someone wants to talk to you. You can be the king of Gondor and you can still bow to four little hobbits who really did save the world. So the message is learn, be humble, and don't forget where you came from.
I love that, man. I love that. I love all of those because at the end of the day, we all came from somewhere. And if you believe in your mission, whether you're Sam, whether you're Frodo, Sam's mission was simply to be there to support Mr. Frodo. And maybe that's your mission, man. Maybe your mission is to be there and stand beside someone, and each person in the fellowship had their role. I mean, let's not get into Boromir, but I mean, they all had their
Yeah, we'll get
role.
there.
You will get there. He did sacrifice himself in the end, but you know what I mean. But like, who do you think is the most underrated content creator in Middle Earth, and why is it Samwise Gamgee?
It is Samwise Gamgee. It is 100% the most underrated content creator in Middle Earth would be Sam, because he's the one who's always underestimated. It's like Faramir said, he was bodyguard. He goes, no, I'm a gardener. He's the gardener. He's just there to take care of things. But Sam would be the Joe Rogan of Middle Earth podcasters. He'd have a studio in Bucklands. He'd pay for all of his guests all over the realm to come there and tell his stories. He'd have no judgment. He would let them talk. And every now and then he'd go on a rant about how old Toby needs to be legalized and conspiracy theories. But what really goes on in the Undying Lands when the elves leave Middle Earth? Where are they actually going? Right? So I think Sam would be the one who is he has the skills. The most important skills of podcast host is not to talk, it's to listen, it's to react. And that is what Sam did. He always reacted to what was going on. He sensed Frodo was leaving. He's like, of course you're leaving. I'm going with you. Of course you're doing it alone. So he's the ultimate wingman. He's the ultimate guide. He's the ultimate best friend. And that is what a podcaster really is supposed to be. A podcast host is supposed to be that. You are the Sam to my Frodo. Everyone wants to hear what I have to say, and you're just there to guide me through the conversation.
I love that, man. You're the Sam to my Frodo, man. I think that there's no greater compliment that you could have to that,
Absolutely.
I mean, you are the Starsky to my Hutch. You are where we're going to go from here. But, there's a lot of good ones out there. But, like, I want to ask you this because, there are so many great characters in The Lord of the
Oh, yeah.
Rings.
Yep.
And my favorite, hands down, is Gandalf because
Same.
Gandalf is the OG, and Gandalf is the one that, like, there was this internet video of, like, at the darkest day, and he just crests the ridge, and the light shines, and I mean, when I read that in the book, I was just like, yes, but when I saw it in the movie, I was like, yes,
Yes. Yep.
it's like this perfect timing, and if I think about, like, if Gandalf were to be here and now, if Gandalf lived in our world, first of all, I'd be like, where are you? teach me. Just, I don't know what, but whatever. And if Gandalf were building a brand on LinkedIn, God, it's terrifying to
I don't
think
know
of.
why, but he's doing it.
Let's imagine he has to do it for some awful reason. I mean, I don't even know if Gandalf would pick LinkedIn. I mean, that's going to change the question, but I want to ask you this question first. And then the second question is, what platform do you think Gandalf would actually be on? Now, what would Gandalf do differently than everyone else if he was building on LinkedIn? And what platform do you think he'd really be on?
I think it would be LinkedIn because the Astari, the 5 wizards or whatever, how many wizards there are, is like it's an organization company of itself, and it's like, where are the blue wizards today? Why aren't they at work? Oh, they're working remotely again. Great.
Right?
So I do think it would be LinkedIn, and people would love to hate him because he would literally be the personification of work-life balance. You got Gandalf the White, the wise, the go-getter, the CEO making a lot of money and showing the truth to the hustle culture, right? He's out there fighting wars, he's out there leading soldiers, he's out there doing his thing. Then when he comes home, he takes off that white cloak and becomes Gandalf the Grey, the man who enjoys birthday parties and a pipe and a brew with some friends at the Shire. So he would be like, here's who I am at home, here's who I am at work, and you just love and hate and are jealous of both of them. He's that CEO who just balls out, but is also pretty humble. So he's just a personification of work-life balance on LinkedIn saying, hey man, this is the life you want to live. Here's how you do it. You Gandalf the White in the morning and you Gandalf the Grey at night.
Right. Oh, man, I love that. And a couple things too that come to my mind on that. He is the CEO that's like, he's the one that's like the CEO that's in it. There are people that
Yeah.
phone in. Gandalf is the guy that's like leading from the front, and every company gets problems. Every single company gets problems. Every single person, every single family gets problems. Gandalf is the guy who's like showing up going, how can we fix this? I mean, except, and that's why he's running everywhere in the damn movie. He's all over the place. And one of the things too that people don't realize, and they go, why is Gandalf here? Why is he just not here all the time? Why is he gone? Because Gandalf was handling the shit people didn't know about. Gandalf was sitting there getting involved, getting his hands dirty with the stuff that people were like, it's no big deal. But like Gandalf is like, yeah, Balrogs are kind of a big deal. You
Yeah.
guys
He's
don't
like, you
like,
sure you want to go here?
yeah,
All
you
right.
guys,
All
right?
right.
You guys don't like Saruman. Let's take a look at a Balrog right now, Now, I want to ask you this because people are all trying to do their thing, right? And there's a lot of creators out there. Just like in the Fellowship of the Rings, you got all these different personalities. Um, but like, what separates creators who become the Fellowship from the creator who try to just carry the ring alone?
You can't do it alone. And I think if you try and do it alone, you fail every single time. Like, imagine if Frodo actually did do it alone, he probably would have gotten killed by Gollum at one point or another. And then who knows what would have happened. Or if Sam wasn't there, even if Gollum wasn't there, Gollum was part, and Smeagol was part of Frodo's fellowship to an extent. And what separates them is this, like, the idea of having the wherewithal to know that you cannot do it alone. I speak to a lot of financial advisors again, and this goes to across all industries, right? Of trying to make content for the business. Well, if you're spending time learning how to edit because you don't have a budget, you're not going towards getting clients. You're not going towards growing the business. So really, it's just like you need that fellowship to guide you along the way as well. Like I talked to a guy last week. You're spending 5 hours a week on making a few videos front to end. How many meetings is that costing you? How many intro calls? How many sales calls? How many client meetings? How many client reviews? So that time in hours, don't think of it as in hours. Think of it as in clients. Think of it as in prospects. Think of it as in onboarding. So when you have that fellowship with you to kind of take things over, and it's like, all right, we're here at the Council of Elrond. We're just going to talk for like an hour, and then the content is going to push itself out there. From there, the stories are going to go out where they need to go while you focus on growing the business. So, yeah, just don't do it alone because you can't do it alone. You need a strong team around you, not just in content and business, also in life. Nobody is successful alone. They say behind every great man is a better woman. And, so that also follows true as well. You need that kind of support system with friends and family to help separate the business from the life and kind of the good from the bad. And just, you can't do it alone 'cause no one does. It's impossible.
One of the things, I am really interested in is the diversity of the team. Like,
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
the Fellowship of the Rings, one of the things that I think was most interesting was that the team was so, so different, you know? And, uh, you have on one side I think that my favorite relationship, I'm going off script right now, hands down, is Gimli and,
And
Legolas.
Legolas. Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
I mean, because they should not be getting along. Their groups and their cultures are just completely different. But one of the things that they established was this beautiful, like, respect for the other's culture, this respect for, and we're talking like when you're talking about companies, you have to look at different things. I had a challenge in my company lately where we had some different company culture kind of clashing. And one of the things that was special to me was to talk to my team about the fact that there are different ways to do things. There are different ways to see things. And like, we have one guy who's a little bit misunderstood on our team, and he is super special and super different. And one of my team members asked me about this whole thing. And I was like, you know what? Like, he's different, and that's beautiful, but, like, we should see each other as differences as strengths, you know? And I said, "You sit there in your box like so many of the elves or so many of the dwarves and go, 'We are better than him.'" But if everyone has that mentality, dude, it's gonna kill the team, it's gonna kill everything. Instead, the people that can bridge the gap are the ones that are really, 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 really important, because at the end of the day, those are the people that are gonna make a difference, you know? And I think that to me, um, I wanna be the glue. I talked about this in a post recently that, like, you have the people that like to shine, you have the people that like to do big things, but for me, one of the things that I wanna do is to be the glue that kinda ties teams together, and, every team needs glue people. Now, if you were to ask which member of the fellowship was the glue, who would that be?
Oh, it was Gandalf. Yeah, and that's why it broke apart as soon as he fell. Gandalf was that wise sage of, "Hey, man, we actually have a chance." Pippin said it best, "We have the White Wizard, that's gotta count for something," right? When they're at the Battle of Minas Tirith. And as soon as he fell, Aragorn was not ready to be that king yet, but he did take up the mantle, but it didn't it just did not work. He had to go and do it elsewhere in the Battle of Minas Tirith, so that glue it was Gandalf, because as soon as he came back, "I come back to you now at the turn of the tide." Things are shifting, and I agree with you, yeah, like, your job as a CEO is to be the glue for all the other pieces, and it kinda touched upon your point about teamwork in general, even expanding beyond the company. One of my favorite phrases to say to people, I believe in cooperation over competition. Like, there are
Yep.
people out there who do exactly what I do for the exact same audience. And I've worked with him before. He was a LinkedIn coach of mine. I've done podcasts with him. He's a great guy. We learn from each other. We're friends, but we are also competition. But we learn from each other. And the more successful he is, the more chance I have, because that means I'm in the right place. I want other people to be doing video content for other people, because that means the industry is healthy. If you stand on your own in your monopoly, I mean, one, either the audience is not going to be there, or two, is just nothing pushing you forward. So yeah, I 100% believe in cooperation over competition and having that one piece of glue that kind of connects all the teams together internally. Absolutely.
I think that people don't understand the power of just that adhesive, and can you be that
Yeah,
adhesive?
absolutely.
What is needed to be the adhesive, And so I think that, I don't know, I just think that people need to question that a little bit more. What's pulling your team together? What's holding it together in a way that's meaningful? Because if you can't figure that out, um, you know, you you gotta figure that out. You gotta figure out what it is that's I just said, "Hey, come here, come here." you're going to come into my podcast. You're the glue in here. This is the glue in my business. And yes, come here. This is the glue. This is my wife.
Hi.
This is
I
Will.
love it.
Sorry.
And so she came
You're
in and
good.
she was doing this little shimmy like thing as she walked in.
Love
And
it.
like, you have to have those people that hold everything together. And my wife is one of them in our business. So, I love that.
Absolutely.
But I want to ask you this next question, going deeper into the Lord of the Rings. What lessons can content creators learn from Saruman about influence, authority, and losing trust?
Well, I think, there are what holds that glue together, back to your old point, the previous point, is communication. Hang on, I have the leaf blow. I don't know if you can hear that leaf blow. Okay, leaf blower outside.
I've been there.
The landscapers are great, but they always come first thing in the morning.
Right.
Anyway, the thing you need is this good communication, and Saruman is one of those leaders that the employees are afraid to go up to. You think you send out that company survey and you want to get honest answers, but people are like, I'm just going to see a thing that gets me under the, like, yeah, it's anonymous, but is it really anonymous? Right? I just don't want to rock the boat. So the lesson you can learn from someone about influence and authority is you might be the smartest guy in the room and like you think you are the epitome of what is good, wise, and powerful, but you can still succumb to your ego and your mind can be poisoned and that poison can seep to the rest of your company.
Yes.
Right? And I kind of view that as the algorithm can poison your minds and you can become a complete terrible version of yourself. Success can poison your minds. Your ego can poison your minds. And that's really what Saruman was. He was the leader of the Astari and it failed because of his weaknesses, because he had such an ego that other people couldn't approach him and be like, hey, man, this isn't working, couldn't get honest feedback. And the one person he got it from was the Dark Lord, was Sauron himself. And that didn't help either. It's like, was it Icarus who got too close to the sun? So that's kind of the character he is. Yeah. So influence and authority, you need to check your ego and you got to be able to get honest feedback from the people you work with. Otherwise, you're just going to succumb to the algorithm and your ego and the poison. That's it.
There's a couple things I want to touch on there. One of them is the fact that toxicity in a group. When you have a toxic team member, when you have toxicity in your own self, in your own space, in your own family, it is like a poison that seeps into things. And the crazy thing is, you don't realize that it's doing it. You don't realize the whispering. You don't realize that people are. What was it? I think it was Martin Luther King who says, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that." And that was the people don't realize. A lot of people don't realize that the rings that were worn to protect Middle Earth were worn by 3 individuals. 1, Elrond. 2 was Galadriel, and 3 was, right?
Gandalf. Yeah,
Gandalf.
Gandalf. Well, the Gandalf had one, but he got that from Círdan the Shipwright, who had it forever. Once Gandalf became Middle Earth, he was like, "Oh, you can have this." Yeah,
Which
and
is
the other 2 were,
wild.
the other 2 were Elrond and Galadriel. I don't think Celeborn ever had one, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, Gandalf had the Ring of Fire.
But it was the Ring of Fire, which generates light, and when he comes to the top of the hill and the light just shines out, it was that light that when there is this rottenness around you, when there is this darkness, and I think one of the best things that you can see that is that when, was what was the king that had been taken over by Saruman?
Theoden.
Theoden, yeah. King Theoden had this heaviness on him, and Gandalf pops him, brings up the light,
Yeah.
releases it. But one of the things too is I think with our content, you can have a couple things. First of all, when you're building a team and you're creating content, I would say a couple things. Be really careful about the direction you go with your content. It's really easy to sit there and go, let's go into shock value. Let's go into, I could do that game with my growing money. I can say guys, the next disaster's coming and you need to be ready and start playing into fear. Someone was pointing that out with Diary of a CEO, how all of his latest, like he's great podcast, but all of his latest stuff is kind of like fear-based stuff, you know? And I think the danger is it gets numbers, it gets views, but you gotta be careful about what you're doing, you know?
Well, I think, back to that quote of light is in darkness, darkness does the only thing that shut out the darkness is the light. But you gotta remember light also casts a shadow. So they do kinda live in equilibrium and in balance, and if you shine too much light or not enough light, that shadow's just gonna grow and grow, and that shadow can kind of overtake you to an extent. So it's like, you think you're doing the right thing, but you're not realizing the shadow you cast behind you. So, yeah, I think that is true with kinda trying to game the system and the algorithm and trying to do what you think is right, but it's a balance too, because sometimes you need some of that. Bills still need to get
You do,
paid, right?
right?
Like,
Yeah,
it's
man.
great if you're a giant artist and you wanna play small clubs, but
Right?
that
If
seats
you
need to
wanna
be
be in
filled and people gotta
yeah,
get paid and hotels need to be booked, buses need to be booked, gas needs to be paid, food needs to be paid. So it's like, okay, you can do this for the love of the art, but it's also a business. So you kind of need that balance, and finding that balance, and it goes back to having the right fellowship of people around you to tell you and give you an honest opinion in a non-toxic way.
right. I love that, man. I wanna ask you this one too, because if you could use only one lesson from Tolkien to grow a business or personal brand, what would it be? I forgot about this question.
Yeah, it would be, don't forget to touch grass. Uh, Tolkien was very much enjoy the nature and the beauty in life. No one could describe a tree like Tolkien. So don't let that power consume you, and, like, remember to kind of use your business for the way of good and separate yourself to remember what life really is all about. Your friends, your family, good food, good earth. Everything that Bilbo said in the beginning of Fellowship. Like, this is what hobbits really are about. Tolkien's favorite carrot creature probably was the hobbits. So, yeah, the lesson you learn in business to grow a personal brand, don't forget to go outside, touch the grass, smell the air, and just enjoy the nature, because your business is just one part of your life, not your whole life.
Right? It's interesting to me too. I think a lot of people forget that. And one of the dangers that I see with content creators is they get lost, you know? They get lost with who they are and where they came from because at the end of the day, you can't lose that center. You can't lose um what it means to be you, you know? And I don't know. I don't want to say that um I'm not judging anyone, but I do know that if you can stay grounded and you can stay connected to the people that you came up with, which is one of the reasons that I actually really respect one thing from Mr. Beast. And don't worry about the leaf blower, we'll clean that up. But one of the things that I respect about Mr. Beast didn't move to Hollywood. He took his whole studio and went back to Greenville. He set up a whole production base in Greenville, North Carolina, because that was where he was from. And he had this belief like, if I'm going to have success, then I want my community to have success with me, which, dude, way to go. Way to stay grounded in the process, you know?
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's kinda what you need. You need just to remember where you came from and just remain to be humble. And don't forget to thank the people who got you there in the first place. And, like, I mean, even in, like, something advisors are afraid of too, that I hear every now and then, where it's like you help someone grow their wealth, and they move on from a financial advisor to a wealth advisor. And it's just like, but don't you think they're gonna be loyal to you because they got you to dance in the first place? And maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't fully understand that industry as well as they do, but that's always surprising to me. It's like, why would you move on from the people who got you in the first place? Like, in sports too, like an agent, like in baseball, they have a regular agent and they fire them to go to Scott Boras to get that huge deal. And it's like, man, does loyalty just not mean anything to anybody anymore? I don't know. Maybe, like, once you get that big, something changes.
I don't know. To me, I've never been that type. Like, if I
Yeah.
come up with someone, if I'm coming up with someone, if we're building something together, like, we're in it, man, and that's how I kind of view things, and I think that was the way Frodo was, Frodo never forgot who he came up with, like, he was there with Sam, like, if Frodo had to give up the ring and it meant that he would save Sam, I think he'd probably do it. I think Frodo would be like, "You know what? The world's not if I don't have Sam in the world, I think the world's not worth it." And it's crazy like that, but, like, maybe that was the superpower, you know?
Maybe. I mean, he had the opportunity, and then he's like, "Say no, the ring is mine. Screw you, Sam."
Right, I forgot about that. Well,
But
shit, he
that's
did,
I
and
mean,
he got his
that's like that not necessarily his fault because
Yeah,
it's physically impossible for anyone to give up
resist
the
the ring.
allure of the ring in that moment. So it's like not Frodo's fault. The only way to destroy the ring, coincidentally, was kind of by accident. Go figure.
Yeah, true. I wanna ask you this one, though. Alright, what, uh in a world increasingly filled with AI-generated content, what would Tolkien tell creators about staying human?
Yeah, I think he would tell you to avoid AI, and I think he'd be completely wrong. This is like the one area I'm like, "Nope, you were wrong, Tolkien, sorry." Because his whole thing, like his books, was about industrialism, right? The idea of industry taking over the world, technology being bad, and getting away from the natural way of life. But I would argue that the industrialism we saw in the early 1900s was undoubtedly good for society and good for the world. We can talk about lifting people out of poverty with this technological innovations, the internet, social movements, like all that came because technology and industry developed and capitalism really kind of took hold. So Tolkien would say ignore AI and don't use it, but I think that's a complete mistake. I think Tolkien grew up in a world that he didn't recognize and the world kind of passed him by, which is fine. He took advantage of it in his own way, but you cannot be afraid of AI. You can't be like, AI, I'm not going to do it because you will fall behind. And you got to remember, Tolkien's works, they're still fiction. They're still fantasy. They're not based in the real world. So I applaud his message of appreciate beauty, appreciate nature, go touch grass. But if your message is avoid AI generated content, I mean, sure, but AI needs to have some sort of place in your workplace, in your content, because it is here to stay, whether we like it or not. That industry is going to march forward and there's nothing you can do to stop it.
Super interesting and super spot on. I wanna ask you this one too, like, was Boromir actually wrong, or was he just trying to solve the problem in a different way? Like an entrepreneur maybe, you know?
Yeah, no, I love Boromir. I'm a big fan of Boromir. Very underappreciated. Well, not understand underappreciated, but a very misunderstood character, but he was completely wrong. The private sector cannot solve everything. Right? His idea was we could use the power for good, but no, the whole point is this power can't be wielded by one man or one person, specifically a man, or the race of men, I should say. So I kind of believe it as like I see Boromir as someone who had the best intentions. Like I have a love-hate relationship with unions here in the States, and I
Mhm.
believe Boromir is the kind of person who would start a union with great intentions, and like within a year,
He's the
as the
mob.
union head, he is just as corrupt as the politicians. He's taking money from the workers, screwing over the workers, as well as society, along with the big bosses. Like, wow, this building used to be built a lot faster. It's like, yeah, it was before Boromir headed the union, made sure everyone has smoke breaks every 25 minutes. And like, it takes forever for things to actually get done. But god damn it, these workers get paid really well. So, like, yeah, Boromir is a tale of having the right intentions, but not being able to see the forest through the trees. And again, with Icarus, once you touch that sun, you're gonna get burned. So yeah, he was wrong because not every problem can be solved by entrepreneurship, especially if it's a public company. It's kind of ironic, right, Sean? The private company's um, job is to serve the public, and the public company's job is to serve the private. So go figure, right? Entrepreneurship cannot solve every single thing. You do need some sort of system. You do need some sort of government. You do need some sort of socialism to make society well rounded. So Boromir had the right intentions, as many people do, but he would have had the wrong outcome, as many people also do.
Right? Alright, man. I like this next question because it has me thinking. As a podcast host, Which Lord of the Rings character would be the best podcast host?
It depends on how you define best. I mean, I still think it would be Sam because he has the ability to listen and understand and respect viewpoints better than anybody. But for the sake of fun here, let's do a few quick ones. So the Dude Bro Sports Podcast, Mary and Pippin. They would have the ultimate like comedian, just two
Right.
bros sitting,
Right?
group of bros, like Andrew Schultz or like Charlemagne with the Breakfast Club, just talking about
Oh,
whatever.
I never thought
The
about that.
female empowerment, the one that all women go to, Arwen. Absolutely. Like strong female lead, soft spoken, right? I understand where you're coming from. Yeah, it's tough. I want and like I went against my family and my culture because I believed in love, right?
Ugh,
That's completely her audience. The history
lovely.
podcast, like I want to learn something but be entertained and be interesting. Gandalf the Grey, absolutely, hands down. The health and fitness freak, Boromir, strong, iron-willed, little stubborn, but always hits the gym. And then the finance and crypto podcast would be King Dane and the rest of the dwarves. They're all just the crypto bros in their minds going like, this is the future. Okay, just go do your thing. We're just gonna leave you alone and kind of good luck. Hope it doesn't crash. So yeah, I mean, what now you can choose define what you think would be the best. Maybe you really like Aramir's podcast on like how to raise horses. It's super niche. So there's a little something for everybody. It just depends what you want.
I love that, man. Couple things there. First of all, I actually want to interview like Tom Bombadil and look at him
Yeah.
and go, dude, who are you, man? Like, what are you doing here? Like, you seem to have a lot of power, but what are you doing? That would be who I'd talk to. I don't
Yeah, I'd
know.
love to talk to John Bombadil. Like, are you mad you're out of the movies? He'd probably be like, "What? What's a movie?" Ring a ding ding dillo. We wouldn't care. That's from Tom
Ding,
Bombadil. He just doesn't care.
ding, 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 dillo. That'd probably be exactly what he'd say right there, man. Ah, geez, that was rad. All right. If the fellowship had a content team, who would handle strategy, production, distribution, and community?
Well, I'm gonna break law here and just go Peter Jackson. Peter Jackson and New Line Cinema because they literally did it. Philip Boyens, Fran Walsh, All the Weather Workshop, New Line Cinema, Peter Jackson. They did it. But if I gotta go in lore for the sake of argument, strategy, man, probably Sam because again, he gets people. He understands how people think. He understands how people act, and he's really good at listening.
Yeah.
Production, I think Gimli and Legolas because they're a good blend of completely silly while also being complete opposites. Like Gimli would be like, "We do lighting underground. This is how you do lighting," and Legolas is just like, "We know style and elegance. Here's how you do a set design." So I think those two combinations would work really well. Distribution would be Elrond and like
Man.
Galadriel, the the
Right?
the elves, because centuries of experience and lore and understanding the entire world. And in community, Tom Bombadil. I want Tom Bombadil running my social media because he's so friendly, he's so nice, and he's magic. And that's what marketing really is, just a blend of likability and magic. So, who would run the community? Yeah, Tom Bombadil runs the cult. That's how that works.
That's awesome, man. What's the ring that modern creators need to throw into Mount Doom? Let's finish with this.
The phone, the cell phone. I I hate my phone, but I also love my phone because I need my phone. And I think everybody has a ring in their pocket, and it is the cell phone. It does consume your life. It is the algorithm. And I go on a lot of walks just to kind of clear my head, get healthy. Because as a business owner, especially in this point in my business, it's very difficult. It's very hard. Mornings specifically are very, very, very hard for me, which is new because I usually just used to get up and go to work no matter how I was feeling. But with like the anxiety, a little bit of depression, there's everything going on in this war in this year. I walk by a creek every time I go on a walk, and I always think, "Is today the day this thing goes in that creek?" And no, absolutely not. But that pull is there, and I think people need to separate the business from the personal. You separate personal business accounts with bank business accounts and business bank accounts. You need to do the same with your phone. Like, I took LinkedIn off my phone last week because I would wake up feeling anxious, feeling a little jittery, check my phone, open LinkedIn, see how that post did, and if it did poorly, that would ruin my day. It would
Yep.
ruin my attitude for the day. So, like, we're sitting here at 9:47 in the morning, I haven't even been on LinkedIn yet,
Good.
and it's genuinely better for me. And I think the idea of being too available for people who aren't available for you can also mess you up.
Yeah. Right.
So, and like, I'm waiting on 5 people to book a meeting with me. They said they would, and they haven't done it yet. So, like, that's really annoying, right? It's super annoying. But having that app on this phone to check if they did every, like, hour, every a half hour is not good for anybody. So, your phone is the ring. So use it wisely and be careful because it can bring you to the promised land or you're screwed. Good
100%.
luck.
100%. I am so on board with that, because I think that, like, I had this thing last night where I was looking at, I was realizing that, like, my Slack that I am part of, it gives me anxiety, and I was like, I do not have it on my phone because I do not want people having access. When I'm done with work, work is off. And, yeah, man, I have to have that separation. I have to have a clear separation, otherwise, it's just too much, and family time is family time. It's a clear thing. But brother, where can people go to learn more about you and what you do?
Best place to find me is LinkedIn. LinkedIn's Will Tarashuk, T as in Thomas, Arashuk. I do all my stuff on there. I grow my business on there. Um, I send a lot of DMs, a lot of comments. I'm very active, more active than I should be. Um, but I do this. I talk to people for a living. I get the ideas out of their head and onto the camera. And then I just help you share your message with the world because, a guy literally I opened LinkedIn for the first time. This guy DM'd me. Not a video person. I don't want to be known as a marketer or a social media guy. Yeah, I don't either. But you kind of have to be, right? And that's kind of the world we live in. But I think, especially in my niche, people know that is what they need to do. They don't want to do it, but they know they have to. So they try and force themselves into it. And when they do that, they do it incorrectly. Um, so working with someone like me can help you do it correctly where you don't spend too much time on it. You spend more time on the business than in the business. And that's really the biggest benefit. Working with someone like me or yourself makes it so you can spend more time focusing on the business instead of being that kind of content creator you don't want to be and working in the business. So go to LinkedIn, find me there.